we were making okay money doing property, but then obviously you stumble across your usual kind of influencer, if you like, kind of showing you the lifestyle of what you can do when you buy a business. So we kind of again bought into that a wee bit, did a wee bit more digging into it, and then the further we looked into it, we were like, hold on a minute, but we can buy a business and it's turning over 1, 2, 3 million. All invoices are getting paid, staff's already there.
Basically, cash flows.
You're buying somebody's 20 years of headache and a day essentially. So yeah, we started to look into it.
Yep. Imagine somebody come out and value the house and says you'll get 250 grand, but then every single person that walks through your door goes, I'll give you 100.
It's the same valuation as it was yesterday.
Well, you go by a street or you go by the local area and you've got so many comparables, but that's not the case with business. Business is worth really what someone's willing to pay for it. Just working with the right people who know what they're doing, especially if you don't really know what you're doing. You could find a great deal, but that could really quickly turn into a bad deal if you don't know what you're doing and you buy it and run it into the ground without doing the due diligence on it, and that's what we found out as well. So working with the right people is really important. I was speaking to a guy last week and he says, I'm doing 10 million turnover 5 years ago. He says, I'm doing 2 million now. He says, and I'm making a net loss. He's like, I should have sold 5 years ago.
I think the other side of it is also just to prove to yourself that you can do it, to prove that you can buy, scale and exit.
Hello and welcome back to the Built Different podcast with your host Stephen Pettigrew. Today's guests are Kieran and Declan from Confido Capital. These two guys are pretty impressive. They have managed to acquire some daycare nurseries a few years ago, built some of them up, let some of them go as well, and we'll touch on that during this episode. And they're now making loads of money, loads of profit, and they're looking to acquire other businesses in some different spaces. You'll get a lot of information about how to buy businesses, structure deals, and also about the exit. So if that's of interest, you're going to get a lot of insights into this. As always, guys, if you find this content valuable, remember to hit subscribe and follow me all over the socials to get notifications of these episodes. And let's get into the episode with Declan and Kieran. Kieran, Declan, welcome to the podcast. It's brilliant to have you on. How are you both today?
I'm good, mate.
Good. Yourself?
I'm good. Welcome. It's good to have you on. We tried to get this done the last time a few weeks ago, and you turned up on the wrong day, Kieran, didn't you?
2 weeks early. I like to be early. But I suppose you made up for it today.
I did. Obviously, we tried to get it done a couple of weeks after that, but you actually had a newborn welcomed into the world, so congratulations on that, mate, before we get into anything.
Yeah, no, thanks a lot. And it's hard work dealing with a newborn.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's good. But as I say, is it the sleepless nights that they're catching up?
Me and Dex got some. You've got 2 kids, right?
I've got 2 kids. I've got a 9-year-old and a 2.5-year-old. So I've been through it all. No more for me.
It only gets worse. Don't worry.
I'm looking forward to it.
So I wanted you guys on because you guys have been buying businesses over the last few years, and it's obviously an industry I'm really keen on. I love talking about this stuff, which is why I do this podcast, and I thought you guys have got some amazing stories and insights to share with the audience, and it's a good chance for us to get to know you a bit better and also work on, what is it you're working on in the future, the Confido Capital. I know you guys have got some big ambitions for that, but before we get into all of that good stuff, we'll start with yourself, Declan. What was your upbringing like at school? How did you get into business? What was the kind of entrepreneurial traits you might have had when you were a kid?
Yep, so I'll not go too much in depth into my kind of upbringing, but I was essentially, I got brought up in a council estate in Castlemilk by a single mother, my mum, who's my rock. I love her to bits. Very good relationship with my mum, my sister as well, kind of close family to be fair. My gran was more like a dad to me. I'd done everything with my gran, so very good relationship with her. Luckily enough, I stayed next door to her as well, so I get fed well. And my grannies. But I kind of the usual you hear for like kind of council estate schemes. Grew up, getting into a bit of bother, getting into a bit of trouble in school, didn't get on well in school because I'd done boxing. I always thought, well, why do I need school? Because I'm going to be a boxer. Big plans. So I wasn't the best in school, to be fair with you. But my upbringing was really good. My mum was really strict with me and stuff like that. So
probably helps you nowadays to
definitely, like she taught me good kind of ethics in life and stuff like that, and one of the most important things she always said to me was treat everybody the same. You treat the janitor the same way you treat the owner. So I kind of grew up with them, and then boxing was a massive part of my life as well, and kind of the way that I acted kind of when I grew up as well, because of the respect that boxing teaches you against your enemy, and just after you've had a punch up with somebody, you'll shake their hand and give them a cuddle. So that was really good for me growing up, and then kind of from school, I left school in 4th year, to be honest with you. Didn't get to sit my exams, but I'll not go too much into that either. But I didn't get to do my exams for being a bad boy. Left there, ended up through my boxing coach, who again was a father figure to me, because I didn't have a dad in the house, so I kind of tried to find people, like guys in my life, and he was really good with me. Peter Harrison, a lot of people know him, he's a kind of Scottish legend in the boxing world, so he kind of took me under his wing, to be fair, and I was really lucky with Peter. And you know, he used to always give me ultimatums in life, and when I was in trouble and stuff like that, he'd always say, Declan, I know everything you're doing. So I remember going in one time, and he kind of just sat me down and he said, Declan, like, you've got 2 routes you can take here. You either stick with me, you know, you start training harder, you start getting stuck into this mare, or else you don't come back to this gym. So it was kind of probably about 15 at that time, and he really woke me up, to be fair. And he says, but look, if you're willing to go down this journey and you're willing to stick into the hard work, I'll try and get you a job in about 6 months to a year. So I did, and boxing always meant more to me than hanging about my pals and gang fighting and stuff like that. That was my out in life, where a lot of my pals didn't really have that. So I was quite fortunate to have that, and at that point at 15 I really said, you know what, let's stop all the nonsense here, and I got into boxing really seriously. Started fighting and stuff like that in boxing, started getting tuned in. Then probably about a year down the line, he got me a job doing sports coaching. So I ended up working for the Royal Foundation on a programme called Coach Core, which was a wake-up call to me, because that was kind of the first thing I'd done in life, like with work and stuff like that. Probably I was nearly 17 at that point, and kind of realised, you know what, I can actually get a job here, and I can kind of get out the cycle of what I thought I was going to be growing up, because people from where I was from, they probably didn't have much, and they didn't really expect much either. So it wasn't as if we felt as if we were losing out on anything, because we didn't have anything. And in my whole life, I looked up to people who I probably shouldn't have looked up to anyway. So right at that point of getting that job, I thought, wow, I can actually earn some money legally and stuff like that, which was pretty cool. So I'd done sports coaching for about 2 years, got qualified in about 14 different sports, and then from there became a lifeguard for Glasgow Sport. So went for there and then met my missus. She was in college doing accounts, so I thought I'd try a wee bit of this with her when she's needing a bit of help and stuff like that. I've always been quite a good studier. Like, if I put my head to something, I'll make sure I kind of learn it, and that was the same with her. She used to come home and she's got a bit of dyslexia, so I always tried to help her out with her work and stuff, and from there I went, I can do this, I'm actually doing all the work for her. So I applied for it, got in. As I said though, I didn't have any qualification, so I kind of started from an SVQ level, had to work my way up, done 2 years before I even got into a HNC. So I worked 2 years up, done my HNC, got into my HND, and then at that time I started doing a wee bit of work on the side as well with a company who will let me kind of do bookkeeping for them, which was really, really lucky for me, because that's when I started to look at business in the sense of how people were earning money and how people were kind of going about their life and business. So it really opened my eyes up to business, which was really good. And then from there started looking at, you know, how can I always had plans when I was doing accounts that I'm going to be a business owner, but I just didn't know how. I knew I was going to get somewhere, but I just didn't know the road yet. I didn't have a plan yet, but I just knew. So when I done that, I started kind of Googling things, and it's always the same stuff that come up, like FBA, fulfillment by Amazon, kind of property stuff as well. So went along to a property course, got into that, and it was one of the guys, I think, who you're working with in your marketing right now, Billy Farrell, who was a big influence in getting me onto the course and things like that. So I signed up to that programme, and still to this day, like, although I don't do property anymore, that was the best programme I've ever done, to be fair. Like, the way that programme was structured and things like that was...
Well, I think all three of us were on there, weren't we?
Yeah.
Aye, well, that's actually, we'll get into that in a wee bit, but that's actually where I met Kieran as well, just kind of things collided and we actually met on that. So I got into that, and that's kind of where my business journey started. So that was kind of like where I started and where I got to, but we'll go further into that, and Kieran can probably jump in and tell you his side.
Yeah. So there's a lot of kind of stuff in there I want to unpack, and even getting into mergers and acquisitions, which is something we're all quite keen on. But Kieran, how did what was kind of school like for you? What was growing up like for you in terms of your early years, and was there any kind of traits that got you into business in the first place?
Yeah. Again, pretty similar to Declan. Gone through school, left school at 16. Again, probably only done about 2 exams out of the how many ever it is you do, and then left school right into an apprenticeship. So I done I think it was about 4-year apprenticeship that I done, and a thing called thermal insulation. But even throughout the whole time I was doing my apprenticeship, I was always trying to learn, just kind of touched on what Declan said. I'd paid on a course to do FBA to learn that. I paid on a course to learn how to do stock trading. So always trying to make money was always in the back of my mind. And kind of the same as Declan, as I'll make money somehow, but I don't know how. And then again, eventually it was, as Declan touched on again, went on to the property course, met Declan through that, and then obviously here we are today. We're now owning businesses and doing what I want to do and making money. So it was good, but obviously kind of tricky.
Try to work all out. And there's a theme here, like most successful people that we know, or certainly I know, tend not to have the best time at school, or tend not to be the best with the grades and stuff, but they've got something about them that they know there's something better out there for them. And it sounds like you guys were kind of similar in that way.
Aye, definitely. School was a bit of a nightmare, to be honest with you, but see, now that I look back on it, it was probably some of the best times in my life. It was like, and I'm trying to teach my daughter that as well now. Like, she comes home and she's, school was hard today and blah 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 blah, and I'm like, but enjoy it, because every day you're in, you're meeting your pals, you know, you're having fun, and you don't really realise until you've left school, God, I wish I was back there.
Aye, so my mum and dad said that same stuff to me when I was growing up, and you think, what are you talking about? You don't.
But it's no till you get there and you realise, they were right.
Exactly.
But
so you mentioned this property course, and we've all been on it. So talk to us about that, because I had the same experience when I went to that course. It was a room full of like-minded, some were entrepreneurs, some were people that wanted to become entrepreneurs. The energy in that room was amazing.
Oh, definitely. And I think that's the biggest thing I took from it, was the energy from the room, because there's some stuff in there that probably now I don't, not that I don't agree with, I probably just think it's maybe when they work for me, essentially. So there's some stuff in there now that I look back that I go, that's probably not for me, which is fine, but it'll be for somebody else. So it was definitely the kind of first couple of days for me that was the best on that programme, which was, I don't know if you want me to say the name of it, it was Property Protege, which was...
hopefully I'll get a wee kind of...
kickback on it, definitely. But it was Billy and Paul at that time. I know Billy's doing something else now, but it was Billy and Paul ran it at that time. And just their energy and stuff like that was really infectious to us, because... You know, also, although I had done the actual business side of things and working, doing bookkeeping and stuff like that, they kind of opened my eyes up to seeing what I could do. And I think it was this whole, you can do it with limited resources as well, that was big for me, because I just even to get on that course, like I had tapped, and when I say tapped, and borrowed from the guy I was working with. He gave me $4,000 to get on the course. So I was like, really didn't have anything at that point, and I was repaying that by working for him and stuff like that. So it was really the first couple of days with Billy's mindset stuff that he does, you know, just changing my whole thought process around money, you know, how money's made, how money's made, and how kind of you can go out there with the limited resources, and then realising, as you said, that a lot of people who are anything in life can change their situation around, and it's not the cards you've been dealt, it's the cards you end up, you know, dealing. So that's kind of what changed it for me, to be honest with you. And kind of on there as well, it was like, it was, they kind of spoke about partnerships and stuff, and how doing things with someone else is kind of, you know, it's better to have two minds than one, and that's where I kind of started looking. And then me and Kieran started speaking on the second day, and I think kind of right from the get-go we kind of hit it off, and kind of spoke about my background, and we're from kind of similar areas and stuff like that, and similar backgrounds.
You just didn't know each other
not at all, but it was right from that day, do you know what I mean? We spoke every day, we've been best pals since then, and we've kind of built an empire, but we're still building, of course. So it was really just that, you know, we were on it the day after that, and again, we didn't have any money, so you know, we
become resourceful, don't you?
And I think that was one of the big things that programme had taught us, was to be resourceful, because let's be honest, we did put a lot of work into it, and we probably, to be honest, if we stuck to it today, we probably would be doing well at it. But for us, it was more of a, how can we get more, no more for less, but there's other things that we can be doing that could create a bigger monster, essentially.
Yeah, I think we've had this chat in the past, we've met for a coffee. So when you go to these rooms, and I've realised that during it, I don't know if you guys realised this during it as well, but there's like 50 odd people in this room every 2-3 months or something, and they're all buzzing. You're one of them, and you're all coming out with these great ideas, and you're all doing the same stuff when you leave. You're doing the what do you call them, those kind of buzzboards things, what they called?
That's right, your bandit boards.
Bandit boards.
You're putting all this up in the areas and stuff. It's funny though, a funny story about bandit boards as well is me and Kieran were, we done bandit boards just about all Scotland, to be fair. Like, we were driving about McKay with 100 bandit boards in the back and just tying them to lampposts, like every single day, like honestly every day. We were putting like letters, like I used to pay my missus 50 quid and she would walk around the whole area like, of an estate, and she would put thousands of letters through these doors and stuff like that. But we put one up, and I remember one night we were just driving by an area, and it was like an alright area, it was quite a nice area, and we put this bandit board up and we got a phone call from it. It was this woman, quite elderly and stuff, quite a bit of a difficult situation she was in with her husband, but no going into that. But ended up we kind of agreed a good deal with and stuff like that, and one of the investors I was speaking to at that point, he actually bought it, and then he rented it to me. So cool. Even to this day, do you know what I mean, just through property, the house that I'm living in just now, it's my mate that owns it now, and he's actually invested into business with us as well through acquisitions and stuff. So the property stuff is a massive part of your journey. And saying that, you know, I know when you said that you left, but I didn't leave. I ended up working for Paul and Billy, so I did. So they actually ended up employing me, although for a short period, because at that point that's when I started looking at acquisitions. But
you probably got some insights being in that organisation.
Massively. See, especially Paul was kind of more distant in that side. He kind of done the training and stuff like that, but Billy was in the office kind of every single day, and just the kind of stuff that Billy would speak about every day, I'm like, I don't want to be an employee. I want to get to know my own businesses and stuff. And they actually set up our first websites for business acquisitions, Billy. So I ended up working for him, which was crazy. I ended up doing calls, training, and it was a guy, Sean McIntyre, taught me how to do a bit of sales and stuff like that, which I still carry at this day, to be fair.
Definitely still serves us to this day, because as you know, massively. Speaking to business owner constantly on calls. And that's what he was teaching us. I remember I had to record my calls and send them to Sean every night, and then he would pick out and digest kind of what I was saying to people and say, you know, you could do this differently and do that differently and stuff. So that really set me up for when we did go out and start to speak to people in the real world, and we were trying to do it for ourselves. So thanks to Sean for teaching me a bit of sales. Before that, I didn't really have much. I'd done some door-to-door stuff, but I had never really been taught the processes and the thought behind like speaking to people and how you can lead conversations and stuff like that. So that was a massive help. So Protege was a massive part of my life. Like I would be lying if I said it wasn't, because it definitely was, and I think it's probably pushed us to where we are today. Just, you know, meeting Kieran on it, learning about, you know, you can get resourceful, you can do it with no money, and then obviously the mindset stuff as well. So
I know money down deal. We'll get into all that. They're interesting. So Kieran, we at Protege then, so that was the property side of it, and he's obviously dabbled in that, and I think he's done some bits and bobs. We were doing really well, to be fair. Like at one point we were selling kind of probably averaging about 3 houses a month at one point, doing pretty well. You've got a business partner in there as well, is that right?
Ryan Waddle. Ryan was also another one who we met on Protege.
Right.
So he actually bought a house off us.
Aye.
So he did.
So how did you go from there then? Because property is a totally different asset to business. How did you go from property Protege and then into business acquisitions?
So the way we seen it, we were making okay money doing property, but then obviously you stumble across your usual kind of influencer, if you like, kind of showing you the lifestyle of what you can do when you buy a business. So we kind of, again, bought into that a wee bit, did a wee bit more digging into it. And then the further we looked into it, we were like, hold on a minute, but we can buy a business and it's turning over 1, 2, 3 million. All invoices are getting paid, staff's already there.
Basically, cash flows.
You're buying somebody's 20 years a headache and, you know, a day, essentially. We started to look into it, delved into it a wee bit further, bought onto a course, albeit it wasn't the best. Then again, just doing what we really done with the property stuff and just really took action, like hardcore action. Got money together that we probably didn't have at the time, and really just started sending the letters out, doing the marketing and speaking to business owners.
I think obviously what me and Kieran's really good at is we've got a real eagerness to learn. Regardless if we're going to push on in that sector, like we've got a real eagerness to learn and
do the reps and understand it.
Exactly.
Topics.
So we did really research it. It was actually Kieran. It was funny because at the start of it, I was like, Kieran, right? He came to me with this idea, like, oh, look at this guy and this Jonathan J guy or whoever it was, and look what they're doing, and I was like, aye mate, you do that, and I'll just do my property stuff. Yeah. So that was my kind of game at the start, and the more that I started to actually look into it, I thought, how long is it going to take me to scale this to? My target was always £1 million in turnover. I said, how long is it going to take me to get to £1 million in turnover doing these property transactions? And I thought, I'm probably not going to be able to just doing it the way I'm doing it just now. So we kind of thought, well, how can we not fast track it, because you don't fast track it and you learn that. But at that point we were probably thinking, how can we fast track this? And it was through acquisition. So we paid on to a couple of courses, didn't we? We done a few courses. First course we done was half decent. It was a kind of introduction course. Then we ended up paying about 12 grand onto a course, which wasn't the best, to be fair with you, but it really
opened our eyes.
It really opened our eyes, because we were like, well, let's listen to half of what this guy's saying, and even if we take one golden nugget from it, the 12 grand was well spent, and we did. And I think inside 6 months we had bought a £2 million business. Do you know what I mean?
Amazing. So see on that, I mean, you hear a lot of people when they come into acquisitions that they've maybe already got a business, maybe they started a business, and you guys have done it a different way about. I know you've got any property, so that's a business in itself, but he's a kind of interesting route there. He went kind of maybe some kind of people would say normal jobs, and then straight in, once you've learned the topic, obviously straight into acquisitions, either acquiring a property or acquiring a business. So what was that like? Because you've kind of been thrown in the deep end.
It was a culture shock, because as bad as it was, because as you said, going for a job to owning a business, there came a point, because I remember the first payroll coming round, and it was Declan and Ciarán. We said, "Has PAYE been covered yet?" And I was like, "What?
What is that?
What is that?" Because that's not even a case of it wasn't known. It's kind of almost like learning on the job.
We went for 1 month, we didn't own a business, to the next month I think our payroll was like 160 grand in 1 month, because we bought 2 businesses in the same day. So it was scary. And then even just the first phone calls with sellers, I remember getting on the call with somebody, my very first call, and he was turning over 500 grand, and I'm like, oh my God, I remember sitting down with my missus, and I'm going, I'm talking to this business today, they're doing $500,000 turnover. I'm like, he's probably making 150 grand a year himself. So it was like this whole aura about this guy, and then he came on the call and he's like, all right mate, how you doing?
He's a normal guy.
He's a totally normal guy. And then the more you grow, we're speaking to £10 million companies and 20, and you're like, people are just the same. Do you know what I mean? It's just they've done well in life or whatever, and that kind of
business owners are so open to speaking to you as well, because they don't really have anybody to speak to about their business. And
definitely.
If you're a potential acquirer, they're talking about their most favourite topic to you.
Exactly.
So they're just opening the floodgates.
It's their baby. And I've actually found that I think the bigger businesses you talk to, sometimes they can be easier. Like, because if you're speaking to this business, it's doing kind of 200-300 grand turnover. It's like they've got a real connection with their staff. Do you know what I mean? And probably their family are working for them, and they've got nieces and nephews in there, and they've got this real connection with it. So them to let go of that is like such a bigger thing than a £10 million company who's got this whole structure in place, managing directors, CEOs, and stuff like that. And so I actually find it easier speaking to kind of bigger businesses.
Understand acquisitions a bit better.
Definitely.
Which we'll come on to, which will be interesting. So, okay, I think we should talk about the businesses you bought then, because we've not quite mentioned that, right? So it was daycare nurseries, yeah?
Yeah, childcare day nurseries, yeah.
What made you go for them?
So again, I think it was, we seen what a certain person was doing in a certain course, and kind of bought into that. But then again, the more we looked into that, it was a great sector to be involved in. Almost, I wouldn't say bulletproof, because nothing's bulletproof, but it's an essential sector. It's needed no matter kind of what the market's doing. So that was kind of one of the reasons.
I think we sat down together, didn't we, at one point? And Ryan, our business partner, his friend's mum owned one as well. So she kind of invited us up to kind of view this nursery, have a look around it and see how things ran. And then we had a conversation with her as well. So that went really well. We didn't end up buying it. We kind of knew we were never going to buy it, but it kind of set us in that path of, you know what, these are really good businesses. Most of the income comes from the local authorities, so it's kind of predicted income, which is great. If you think about an economy, it's something that's always needed in the economy is childcare. You know, it's people 100%. Always need their kids looked after.
You had no prior experience in
none at all.
Exactly.
No, but I had worked in childcare obviously through sports coaching, but it was like probably I worked from 5-year-olds upwards, so I had never worked kind of under freeze or anything like that, which is kind of nurseries, like probably minimum you're looking at like 6-month-old up to kind of 5-year-old when they go to school. But so I had worked with kids, but not that level of kids, and then not all day every day and stuff like that. So it was a massive kind of
a culture shock. I think the most experience I had from it, my missus Kerry, she worked in a nursery, so I think we were kind of we've got some experience, but then until you actually get in the door, it's a culture shock.
Thought it was going to be easy, and then you realise you've got 55 women staff, and it's not as easy.
You've just jumped in with 2 feet on that one.
Yeah.
So sorry, Kieran.
But that's what I was going to say, as we'll probably touch on later on. All these deals didn't go to plan.
Exactly.
Most of these, the way we probably see this to now, it was almost like an apprenticeship, probably kind of learning like really learning, because we'll be honest, about 3 of these failed.
Yeah, we'll probably go through the first couple of acquisitions if you want.
We've all had failures, and I think that's part of it, isn't it? You have to swing so many times to get some wins. So on the deal itself then, right, or the deals you were doing at that time, how did you, for the audience, how did you come about those deals? How did you structure them? You don't need to give them exact details, but how did you come about them and stuff?
So, well, as Kieran says, we just went right after it from day one. So on the courses we had done, we'd seen a partner, people saying, you really need to contact these people directly. You do get kind of these business brokers out there who sell businesses and stuff like that, but we kind of got a bad feel from them right from the get-go, kind of speaking to them and stuff. We didn't really get the best feel, so we started trying to reach out to people directly, whether that be through us just doing a bit of research on them, then contact them. Like, we were phoning nurseries up and just going, "Hi's your owner there?" Cold calling people.
So you're investigating who is the owner of that business,
exactly.
on company's house,
and then we were just going, right, that's the name of it. Like, let's just type it in Google, get the number, phone them, and then just try and get them on the phone there. And then we started sending letters to them. We started doing some kind of reach out through email campaigns and stuff like that as well. Through data brokers, we were getting kind of their details through there and then contacting them. But the first couple of months went really well for us, and we started getting on the phone with a lot of people. But probably just because we didn't have the experience of owning businesses, we kind of looked at it a bit wrong in terms of geographically. We were kind of just going, we'll build this massive group and it doesn't matter where. So we started looking at nurseries in England and Wales and stuff like that, and that's where kind of things went wrong for us. And the Scottish nurseries were great, but we realised straight away that having kind of nurseries away down south wasn't the best, because you can't really lead your people, you can't manage your people and stuff.
I suppose as well though, because you didn't know any better, it was probably a good thing. So if you come into that hub with an idea of I've done this before, sort of thing, probably
would have never done it. Exactly. And I think it was always better for that to happen right at the start. Get the lessons out the way now, because it set us up now. I mean, what we've learnt now to go forward, none of that will ever happen again.
I think it's the clear plan we've got now, and we've got a strategy to acquisitions now. Do you know what I mean? It's like, we won't look at an acquisition unless it meets every kind of criteria that we have. So that really set us up for good standing in the future, which was great for us.
So how many nurseries did you guys buy at that time?
So that would have been 4 all in, but I think it was like 6 locations.
Yeah.
Right, wow.
So, but you can imagine that. So we had 2 in Glasgow, 1 in Dumfries and Galloway. No, 2 in Dumfries and Galloway, 1 in Wales, and then 1 in, where was the other one?
Great Yarmouth.
Wow. Right.
So they're all kind of spread out. Aye. But the ones, and we only own 2 of them today, by the way.
Right.
So we do, which is turns out the best ones, and it's because they're local to us.
Yeah.
So we went through some kind of hardships with them right at the start, but as Kieran said, it definitely set us up, for the future. So we bought them. Everything went well for about a month.
Yeah. Right.
And then it didn't. And we had to kind of get rid of them, to be fair. Because you probably invested about 200 grand to try and keep them.
We lost a lot of money through that, trying to keep them alive and trying to keep. It's not like we weren't trying to keep them alive. It was just, as Declan said, it's geographically. These businesses, when you're buying them, a lot of people are out there glorifying you buy a business and that's it. These businesses need managed.
Not even that as well. It was the wrong businesses we bought.
Yeah.
So that was a big thing. We were buying businesses because we could,
yep.
and there was no strategy behind it and no due diligence at all. Now we spoke to one company and he says, we're doing 230 grand profit, and we went, all right, great mate, thanks, right, cool, we'll give you 550 grand. We give you 250k in day one. They went, all right, cheers, cool. Took it, and before you know it was doing 100 grand profit.
Yeah, I think when we took over that one 2 months later, 50% of the revenue was gone. But again, that was another lesson for us, no doing the right due diligence before you dive in.
But it wasn't because we were being lazy or just leave it. It was because we didn't know.
Didn't know any better.
That's it. We just didn't know. So that kind of, that was a big thing for us. And when we did get over that hurdle, we really had a clear plan of what we have to do. Now, we've got a lot of money sitting right now to do acquisitions, and we've not been able to do any in the last year. And that's not through us being able to do them. We could have done them, but we're just not willing to put money into them because it's got to be right, and it's got to be the right location, it's got to have the right management structure, it's got to have the right systems and procedures in place for us to actually pull the trigger on it, because we'll end up down that hole again that we were in and that we had to get ourselves out. So it's been a massive learning curve over the last 2.5 years of just owning companies, because we didn't own any before it, so we didn't know the challenges and the problems.
Small businesses as well, they're like, they're well, all of our mentors say the same thing, they're so volatile. Like one day you can be worth in somebody's eyes £2 million, the next day £1 million because you've lost your best customer or your best staff member, or whatever, best contract.
Yeah.
They're so volatile. Every single day it can go up and down. And that's something that when I'm speaking to business owners, they sometimes don't understand that. Obviously, it's the most valuable thing in their possession is that business. And for small businesses, and I'm talking less than 5 million revenue, less than 700 grand profit, anything less than that, they're very, very ropey. And it's a big risk for buyers like you guys.
It attracts a different type of buyer as well. Like if you look at who's buying businesses, I mean, there's really not many people out there buying businesses minus like 500 grand profit. It just doesn't really happen. But see, trying to explain that to an owner, they're like, nah, I want 5 million. And you're like, right, cool. It's
because their accountants told them.
Because their accountants told them.
So
I'll tell you a story actually like that. So we were just about to buy a great nursery, great location, literally about 5 minutes away from our other two that we have right now. This was only last month and we had all the bank lending in place. And we can go through structure the way we structured deals previously, but this one we were paying 100% in day one, which you'll know, it's really
generous.
Yeah, it's really generous. It's really uncommon, especially for a small business of this size. And everything was in place. 2 weeks away for completion, and she phoned us and says, I'm pulling out. And we said, well, is it something we done? Is it something we can improve on? It's always something we ask is, well, what could we have done differently, really, even if we don't end up buying it? And she says, nah, it's nothing you've done. I went and took advice off my accountant and some tax advisor, and they says I'm too young to sell. And then we were paying her £1 million in day one.
That's crazy.
And she walked away from it, and she says, well, I'm not going to get, I'll get entrepreneurs relief, but I'm going to just wait 2 years and make 500 grand, then I'll get entrepreneurs relief.
Which is now going up as well.
Now going up in 2 years, there's probably not going to be entrepreneurs relief, and she's probably going to lose 250 grand or whatever it will be on tax anyway. So she's probably worked a year for nothing really, and nobody will come in at the same offer that we had. No chance, because it's a small business. We were only doing that because we knew our staff team really well. We've got a great connection with them, and there was so many things that lined up for us to actually pay cash. But that won't happen again. So she's essentially, just by taking a bit of advice off someone who's probably never sold a business, probably don't even own the business that they're actually working for. They've lost her £1 million. So it's crazy.
Advisors are so dangerous. I mean, they've got their place, obviously, but you know, the three of us have spoken to so many business owners in the past 3 or 4 years, and I've got so many stories as well about like they can really muddy the waters. Even brokers. I've spoken to a couple of people who've had businesses for sale for 4 years on a broker site, and their valuation, like a transport business that I'm thinking of, the guy had a £2 million valuation given to him by the broker, right? It was up for sale for 4 years online. He didn't receive a single offer, and it's because his profit was 150 grand.
Crazy.
Right?
A 20x.
Aye. And it's like, where are you getting this from? Whereas, and the guy's lost 4 years of his life. And you guys know this, it's a mindset thing. If they've been told from someone who they perceive
the money's spent,
but they perceive that person as being legitimate and they've got experience and they know what they're talking about, if they've been told it's £2 million, they can't climb down from that figure.
It's like somebody coming out and valuing your house, right? Imagine somebody coming out and values your house and says you'll get 250 grand, but then every single person that walks through your door goes, I'll give you 100. I mean, you're taking the advice of somebody who's meant to be a professional, so you're going to stick with their advice until somebody hopefully comes along and offers you that. But it's a lot different from property. Totally. It's not bricks and mortar, do you know what I mean? So it's a lot different.
The house is it's the same valuation as it was yesterday.
Well, you go by a street or you go by the local area and you've got so many comparables, but that's not the case with business. Business is worth really what someone's willing to pay for it.
And it's crazy the amount of deals, good deals that could probably get done had these advisors give these crazy valuations. Because again, there is people out there like yourselves who'll be able to buy these businesses, improve them, scale them and sell them.
I had a chat with someone recently who's got a heating and plumbing business, and he wants a certain figure. It's about £1 million, but he can't produce any financials for the last 2 years. And
on a fag paper.
Yeah, and his accountant is saying, £1 million not enough for your business. Well, see if that's the case, please provide some of the information we're asking for.
How did you get to the number?
It's always the first question I ask. I always say, look, I'm not here to value your business. I've known your business for probably 20 minutes. Who am I to tell you what you want for your business? So it's probably a question you've got to ask yourself. Then they'll come back to me and I'll say, right, how did you determine that figure? And then you'll be surprised with what people tell you. Well, I've got 200 grand left in my mortgage. I've got, I want to set my weighing up in Dubai, so that'll be 60 grand, and then you go, right, cool. So it was nothing to do with the business. It's to do what you want to do after the business. Then you can kind of work it backwards from there.
Because the money's just a tool, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's to feel what you want to do afterwards. And And yeah, I've got the same conversation with people as well, guys. So when it comes to that period of time you're buying those businesses, there was a lot of lessons. If someone was starting out doing what you guys were doing, wanting to buy businesses, they've maybe not ran a business before, they've not started a business before, what's the kind of main takeaways you
Definitely, if you're going to buy a business, you need to be doing due diligence. And due diligence is financial due diligence, legal due diligence, due diligence on the owners as well, due diligence on the staff, like just every type of due diligence you can do. And you're not going to be able to do that all yourself, right? Even though I've done accounts in college and stuff like that, to a good level, when I got into buying businesses, it was totally different. You know, you're looking at things that's alien to you. So work with good advisors. They have to be good. They have to be doing or done what you're doing. You know, they have to have maybe sold a business before, or maybe they've bought their practice. And we started going down that route. I'm looking at people who, you know, an accountant who maybe knows what they're doing in this sector and they know how to buy a business, and they maybe help us value businesses and things like that as well. And then they'll do their financial due diligence into making sure that the profit's right. You know, it's the profit's what the actual accounts say, because accounts can be fluffed up or they can be wrong at points and stuff. So working with the right accountant's really important. Working with the right legal advisors to make sure your SPA is watertight, making sure you've got the right warranties and indemnities and things.
Can't it?
It can be, but there's ways around that. I'm sure we'll probably speak about that, but you know, just working with the right people who know what they're doing, especially if you don't really know what you're doing. You could find a great deal, but that could really quickly turn into a bad deal if you don't know what you're doing and you buy it and run it into the ground without doing the due diligence on it, and that's what we found out as well. So working with the right people is really important.
Mentors would also, I would say community as well, because again, look, listen, we sometimes bounce ideas off each other, and also business partners as well, because listen, you could do it yourself, but sometimes we have the conversation is when we went through all that stuff you had to go through at the start, imagine doing that yourself. It would have been super stressful. So you're getting the right business partner, getting into the right mentor programs, and getting round about people who are doing the same thing as you and doing it successfully. I think that's always good too.
The partnership one's massive as well for me, because it's like we all bring different things to the table. So I'm more financial, Kieran's really good at speaking to people actually on kind of leading calls and things like that, and then Ryan's more operational because he came from that background. So we have a kind of good roles in our company, what we do, and when you're looking at business partners, you should always have that in the back of your mind of what do they bring to the table and what do I bring to the table.
It's quite a lucky thing actually. Lucky's maybe not the right word, because it's got to be luck's way, but for us to work together so well, having not even known each other, it's quite rare.
Yeah, we're hungry, we're after it, and we want the same things for each other. Like Kieran's got a young family, I've got a young family, Ryan's got a young family. We're all from the same kind of background. Although Ryan's 10 years older than us or whatever, we're all from the same background. We're all eager, we've all got the same plan, which is really important. And that was something we spoke about at the start, not at the start, after everything had kind of went a bit wrong and we came out with the good businesses that we still own to this day. We kind of sat down and we said, what is our plan for this? Let's all agree to this plan and let's start executing towards this plan. So we had that right from that point, and we've really stuck by that, and we're still working in that daily and things like that. So it is really important that you work together.
So Kieran, it's been mentioned a few times here, some of the deals that didn't go quite as well. Why didn't it go quite as well? Was it location? Was it staff? Was it?
First of all, I'd probably say location was probably one of the biggest ones. Due diligence being the second, and then probably the size of businesses that we were buying. I mean, some of these businesses we were buying were turning over 500k, 300k, and then it's trying to manage staff from afar, and also no coming from the sector. That's also got its issue as well, because we were telling staff to do things, and then when we were going down to visit nurseries, none of it was done. So you don't know what's going on when you're not there. So that, and let's be honest, we over leveraged them as well, because that was also an issue.
That's what I was going to ask. So how did you structure them and stuff?
So these deals were done just as we came out of COVID. So there was a thing called the recovery loan scheme. So we were using the initial down payments were done through them. So let's just take 500k purchase price. We were putting 250k of an unsecured loan down in these, and the rest was paid and deferred. And like the one in Great Yarmouth, for example, that was servicing that debt fine first for the 3 to 4 months, but then again, for the due diligence point of view for our end, is half the kids left time the school leavers came, so half the kids went away, half the revenue.
Every business that went wrong for us was inevitable. That was going to happen. Like, if anyone with a trained eye had actually looked at it, they'd have went, yeah, you'll survive for 3 months. Then it won't. and now we have walked away from hundreds of deals like that now that we wouldn't even bat an eyelid at. like we have walked away from so many. So there's that. I think the biggest thing is definitely we just bought the wrong businesses, to be fair, and they paid too much, which isn't the owner's fault. It's our fault because we bought them at the end of the day, so we take accountability for that. But yeah, the biggest thing for us is definitely you need to know what you're buying. You know, it's like buying a house. You wouldn't just buy it. Well, people do, I guess, at auction, but it comes with more risk.
You want to see it. You want to see some pictures, recent pictures.
Exactly. Especially if you're going to be leveraging it and put yourself in a vulnerable position. Yeah. You need to make sure you know what you're buying.
Mentioned earlier how volatile it is. Mm-hmm. We've seen that firsthand at how volatile it can be. Yeah. Overnight, it can be very volatile. Yeah. So also
as well down in England, we kind of come up with a common theme that our Scottish nurseries were always doing great and our English ones were doing terribly, and that's because it's structured way different down there. Right. Now we again didn't know that when we bought them, because why would we know? Yeah. We didn't look into it. We just bought them. All right, you want that? Cool, we'll give you it. Thanks. So everything that down in England's ran differently in their education system. First of all, it's ran by different people. They're run by the Ofsted down there. We're run by the Care Inspectorate. Although it's kind of similar, it's also very different. They work to different standards. They work to different kind of structures and things like that. So we had an operations manager in Scotland. Sent her down to England. She's like, I don't know anything about that. Although she had 25 years experience up here, she had no experience down in England.
And you guys have jumped into this with 2 feet. You've got one set of rules up in Scotland, different set of rules down south, and you're trying to learn both at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. And then just even the money part of things down there as well. Like, Scottish education system's so much more advanced than English. Well, to me it is. Maybe down in England they think differently.
I'm not an example of that though.
But I think it's way more advanced up here in terms of the actual nursery sector. I think that we got a lot more support from our local authorities and from our actual government. They pay a lot more and things like that, where down there they don't. Although England have just introduced a kind of under free programme, which will be great for England, and we're trying to follow suit up here. But at that point, you know, we just got a lot more support up here. We got a lot more funding up here. Therefore, it was a lot easier to fill your nursery up in Scotland. You know, there was a lot more kids coming into your nursery and staying there because they were getting a lot more support. The families were getting a lot more support to pay for the education, because child education, it's really expensive, and then retaining staff and stuff like that was a problem as well down in England, because look, ultimately it is a low paying staff. It's a women dominated industry, therefore there's probably a few more issues than if it's a construction site or whatever. So there's that as well, and up here you do get a lot more support with that, which is great. And that's why we will only work in Scotland as well, location, but also as well just the actual outlay of nurseries I think are run a lot better, and we get a lot more support up here.
So guys, it sounds like he's had a bit of a flurry of activity to begin with. He bought a lot of companies, some were profitable, some weren't. He decided to shed some of those ones off, and then he didn't have maybe as much activity. And what was that period like for you? Was because you were going full on for quite a while and then it kind of eased off. Was that stressful? Was it a bit disheartening?
Yeah,
was it?
It was definitely stressful. Wasn't it?
Sleepless. There was a lot of sleepless nights in there because we thought it was finished. We were like, this is all gone, because there was obviously a lot of people chatting on the door, but we resolved quite a lot of things.
Yeah.
But
I think you went from feeling like a success to a failure kind of inside about 6 months. Although we had a business up here that was turning over 200 grand, making 450 grand profit, and everything's going well, you're still making a lot of money.
2 million, I think you mean there, instead of 200 grand turnover.
2 million turnover, sorry, and 450 profit. But I think, you know, we went from buying so many businesses in the first 6 months to not buying any, probably it was about a year. We didn't buy anything.
And you thought that was normal to do that amount of activity?
And that was the issue. So when we stopped doing it, you start to get this effect, like, is this right for me? Should I be doing this?
And
then
crazy.
Obviously, because you're also going, these businesses I've bought, that wasn't right, I shouldn't have done that. But then when we're weighing it up, we're going, but we've bought 2 great businesses, so we can do it. It was just that we shouldn't have the scattergun approach and just buy a deal and do a deal just because you can. That's been a big lesson for me personally. Just don't do a deal because you can do a deal.
Yeah, so for the first year we were thinking, like, can we do this again? You know, did we get lucky? There's everything that goes through your head. But then again, just the benefit of having partners, we did all sit down and we had that conversation of, well, look, it's only been a year.
What's the plan here?
How long would it have took us in our jobs to make this amount of money? How long would it take us in property to get to this level of turnover? And we've done it inside a year. So think what we can do in the next year. And that's what we started to build towards. So we kind of flipped our whole mindset around from, we've done everything but never doing nothing, to, well, we'd probably rather do nothing than do what we'd done at the start, to be fair. So that's the way we looked at it. And then inside that year, we ended up buying another great company, which wasn't even in this sector, which was another
company.
what's that?
Training company.
Training company, that's the one, yeah. So we ended up buying a healthcare training provider, again in England, but it's not the childcare sector, it's different, it's a great management structure. It's a lot more stable, to be fair, and they've got some great contracts in there. They work with a lot of the massive healthcare companies in England. We've got a good relationship. So that was a structured deal, leverage deal. Actually, that's been 2 years now, so that deferred's actually up this January.
Amazing.
Which recording this podcast, we're in November of 24, so that'll be up in January 25.
By the time this comes out, it probably is January, to be fair, so that'll be interesting when that happens.
That's
so that'll be debt free, and you own the whole thing.
And that company's went great. We serviced it, no problem, because again, we took into what we did into the nurseries, into that due diligence, and it all married up, and that will just be the same with any deal going forward.
And we're at heads of terms with a few now, so things are kind of progressing. Just because we've managed to clear our head, we've managed to get a plan together, we've managed to put a lot more structure to what we're doing on a daily basis and things, so we're really pushing on, to be fair. But that acquisition that we done at that point was massive for us, because we went,
it's an eye-opener.
we can do it, and we're going to do it, and that was like, let's go again.
Do you know, there's another lesson in there for people listening that are maybe thinking of doing this or have been trying to source deals for a while. You guys have been, again, lucky's not the right word, because you've got to put yourself in luck's way, but it's unusual to get a deal so quickly, like you guys managed. It's very unusual. So people listening to this that want to get involved, they need to do the reps. They need to have a long-term strategy, because it isn't get rich quick.
It's not.
Even when you buy the thing, as you found out, you've got to pay off any debt you've borrowed. You've got to keep all the staff paid.
You've got to keep money in the bank for a rainy day. You've got to make sure your staff are right, and then your staff come to you for a pay rise, or what happens if COVID happens. You've got to have reserves. There's so many things that go into owning a business that you would never even think about until you own a business.
I think the timing was probably a wee bit right when we obviously went in to buy businesses, because we just came out of COVID, so sellers were obviously motivated. So that kind of went away, albeit it would have been great if it was 6 good companies we bought, but it wasn't. But we wouldn't be here today.
But you've learned a lot more from the ones that didn't work.
Well, I always say that to Kieran, because Kieran does, you kind of, he's a bit different from me. I kind of always try and look at the positive. Kieran, you sometimes get a wee bit tied up more in it and stuff with what's happened.
What did you do wrong and stuff?
Yeah. Kieran's just probably dwell on it a wee bit more than what I do, which again is the benefit of having partners, because I can say to him, well, you know what, look what we're doing now, and look what we learned from it, and that's
vice versa.
Always,
he can pull you back in and say you're getting too excited.
Exactly.
Remember what happened before.
Exactly. So we're good at that, but definitely I think the lessons we learnt from that, and I would have rather now that did happen. Because see, if we had bought 6 companies right at the start and it all went well, we'd have thought this is easy. We would have thought it was a get rich quick scheme, and before you know it, something would have went wrong, and we'd have been like, oh my god. But that happened right at the start of our journey. It put us in the right path to actually make sure in the future that doesn't happen again. Although it could happen again, you never know what's going to happen, but hopefully we've put ourselves in a better position, and we've learned from those mistakes, and we've took everything on board that it doesn't happen again, so that we can be more successful in the future and do more things in different sectors as well.
So those existing businesses then that you've got, what's the plan with them? Is it plan to keep building, keep growing? Is it plan to sell them?
So obviously with our plans is exit them all at some point, but with the childcare group just now, we're just doing it, we're buying and building, just to create and form one big group with the plan to exit. And we're hoping to hopefully get an exit maybe in the next 18 to 24 months. But again, as we've obviously been touching on, is we'll only do deals if they're right. So we're talking to quite a good few nurseries just now, but
the heads of term stage we won, which funny enough you actually put us onto them. So
I'm still with a couple of coffees for that.
That's that. We've done this for you, so it's fine. Debt repaid. But yeah, so the heads of terms we're at one. I'm meeting one tomorrow, which is a bit of a bigger group, which is probably one that we would love to do. The one you passed is on probably the best nurseries we've ever been in, actually. So thanks for that.
Welcome.
Aesthetically, they're lovely.
Like really, really good nursery. So I reckon we could get the 2 of them done if we really put our head to it in the next kind of 24 months, to be fair.
So the idea is to build almost a super
definitely to grow,
group.
Not a super group. We don't want to, because again,
that's not massive.
We want to get to a point where we're leading the industry in quality and care. And Fiona, who we've actually not even spoke about, who is a massive part of what we do actually. In fact, she's way more influential in the actual childcare group than what me, Kieran and Ryan will ever be. because we actually bought the first nursery from Fiona.
She came, okay, right.
Yeah, so we bought Fiona out in 2022, and then in the next 6 months when things started to go wrong, we pretty much quickly identified that we have to have an operator in there who's in the sector, been there and done it, wore the t-shirt. But she actually was that good that, and she's seen our vision that much, that she actually offered to buy back into the company, which she's now done. So she is a partner in our company again. We're all equal shareholders. We know what the plan is.
That must have been quite good to hear, because she must have believed in you guys that what you were doing was going to work.
Massively.
To come back in.
Yeah, massively. She knows the benefit that we bring to the company, and we know the benefit that she brings to the company. We've got a very good relationship. Fiona's a superstar in the industry. Kind of every person we go and meet, they'll know Fiona. She's on so many kind of parent groups and owner groups, and she's actually does the child panels and stuff like that in Scotland as well. So she's well respected, and we really want to watch with Fiona, to be honest with you. And we're still lucky to this day to have her. So I think Fiona's obviously got her own plan as well, which ties in with ours, which is kind of to exit in the next probably maximum 3 to 5 years. But
there's an obvious question here, right? Or obvious answer to this question. Why do you want to exit?
Well, I think it's liquidity is one of them. A capital event, but also it's seeing the volatility of businesses. Yep. And then you can hold on to something for too long. Yep. I think a lot of people do that in businesses, and by having so many conversations with people, I was speaking to a guy last week and he says, I'm doing 10 million turnover 5 years ago. Yep. He says, I'm doing 2 million now. He says, and I'm making a net loss. Yep. He's like, I should have sold 5 years ago.
I think the other side of it is also just to prove to yourself that you can do it. Yep. To prove that you can buy, scale and exit.
Yep. But I think for us as well, it's like, because the way that we buy businesses, which we haven't really touched on too much, is there's a lot of risk that goes into it from our end, but also from sellers' ends as well. I think by having that liquidity event, it puts us probably in a bit more of a better position to go and buy different businesses that probably right now it's a bit harder for us to buy kind of the 7 and 8 million turnover companies, and they're maybe looking for a bit more skin in the game, and we can't provide that right now because we've not got 2 million liquid. Where if you get that capital event, more banks will speak to you. You'll get more lending.
You prove the concept works.
Exactly, you can prove the concept works, and banks will trust you, and people will trust you way more. So there's that, but then to secure your family, let's be honest, that's why I do this. I know that's why Kieran does this, and I know that's why Ryan does this as well. It's like, I almost see myself as a byproduct to what I want my family to do in the future and stuff like that. So I'm trying to provide them a life and a future, and my 2 daughters, I want them to have what I didn't have growing up. I don't want to just hand it to them. I want them to see that their dad works hard. I want them to see that their dad is a leader. Their dad can do things that not many other people are doing. So it's also to be an example to them and give them a life that I didn't really have growing up, so that they don't need to go through the challenges that we've went through.
It's an interesting dynamic, isn't it? Because I hear people say that when they become wealthy and stuff, and their kid maybe doesn't go through state school and all the challenges that comes with that, they're not prepared for the real world. So it's an interesting balance, isn't it?
Yeah,
like something I've thought about with my kids.
I do the same. My sister and that still live in Castlemilk, and it's like, my daughter goes from where we live, it's a lot quieter, there's not many kids and stuff like that that go out, but then she goes down to my sister's and she'll be like around the football pitches hanging about, and she loves it. She comes home, I climbed this fence, and the wee boy was trying to set a fire, Dad, and I'm like, aye, that was normal, like that's what happened every day. But she's just so not used to seeing that. So I do actually love still sending her down to where I'm from, because it's like, it's teaching her that wee bit, being a bit more streetwise, and I think we carry that into business. Like, we can see where people are maybe being a bit untrustworthy, or they're not telling the truth, and maybe speaking a bit of BS, and we kind of see that because we are a bit more streetwise, and you can kind of tell just by having that background, and even though the stuff that we used to get up to, you didn't really realise you were negotiating, but you were. So it's definitely kind of having that bit upbringing has helped us in business and in life in general, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you are young guys, and there's a lot of mileage left in. So let's imagine you get this exit in 18 months, 2 years time. You've got some cash, and you might want to invest it. But if you guys got a plan longer term, you want to do this buy and build strategy for the rest of your careers, would you go back to doing something else? What's the idea?
If it all goes well, it'll be just rinse and repeat.
Yep.
And we'd look to do it in other sectors.
Because there's levels to this game,
levels to it. Yeah, because
exactly.
I mean, when we're going for just now looking at companies doing 1 to 2 million, we could get into another sector and look for companies doing 5 to 10 and put them together.
So we're already working in different sectors, which is good. So we're trying to diversify a bit at this point in time. which I think is important because we don't want to have all our eggs in one basket. So we have got, as we spoke about there, we've got the healthcare training provider, which again gives us a bit something to fall back on, but we're also at heads of terms with another company in a different sector, but I'll not go into it because it's not done until it's done, but we are at a really good stage of that. So if that one completes, we're in a different sector. So if we get an exit on our nursery group, we'll still have an income every month, but we'll have more liquidity, and we'll maybe go, right, well, let's go in and buy another nursery group and do it again and rinse and repeat there. But the kind of companies we're building on the side, there's not much of a, with the healthcare training provider one, we're not really looking to do a buy and build in that sector at this moment in time. That might change down the line, but right now we're not. So it's just kind of holding on to that, maybe trying to grow it internally, trying to build the team out and do it that way, but not through acquisition. Just because it's a bit more of a harder sector to buy in, there's not much to leverage. It's a service-based business.
I'm guessing that type of business, if you're acquiring a competitor, you're getting all the accreditations and training providers, which are quite, I'm guessing they're
contracts,
programs they've built, and maybe they're online
rare,
systems.
Actually, it's hard to get hold of those people or recruit them. I'm guessing.
Exactly. Not many people are selling in the sector, to be honest with you. And I think when people are selling, the expectations are a bit higher than what we would really pay. I think that sector you can get some good multiples, and it's actually the same with the childcare group, and that's probably why we're looking to build the childcare group, because we kind of look at it as people will pay probably 46 times multiples for one nursery, but if you've kind of got a group of maybe 3 to 5, they'll maybe pay a bit higher. So it's worth our while kind of spending that maybe next 1 to 2 years building that group out to get the higher exit that will put everyone in good standing. And again, it's not just selling it to anyone as well. I think that's important for us because and that came from Fiona, to be fair, especially with the childcare stuff, because there's a lot more sentiment in childcare for the staff, for Fiona, because they're all still her staff that she sold to us as well.
Absolutely.
So it's making sure they get the right owner in as well with them when we do decide to exit, which is really important because we do care about them. I know all the staff. I don't know their kids, but I know them, and they speak about their kids, and we're in the office and things like that. Like we were up just building shelves and stuff for them, just try to get our hands dirty a bit and show them that we are there for them and things, and we're willing to help. So we've built a bit of a connection with them as well. So it's making sure that if we get an exit, it's to the right people and they feel comfortable moving forward as well with whoever's going to own them. So there's a lot that goes into it.
When you start that selling process, if you guys have got that in your mind now, you probably need to, if you're not doing it already, you need to start those. You're starting that already, having those conversations about who is the potential buyers for this business. Who would buy it.
We have already started looking, and I think
there's a lot of that that's on in this sector, and there's a lot of kind of private equity backed companies
consolidation
at the top of the chain. But
you don't know if maybe a competitor will come around and they'll be a better acquirer and they'll maybe get a bit of backing and things like that. So listen, we're not too far down the line actually, because we're still trying to buy ourselves. And as we say, we've got a good amount of money put by just now that we can go and spend and kind of grow the group for more quality and things like that. So don't say that too loud, because people listening to this might think you've just given them some money. No chance.
So before we tidy up, guys, we've mentioned no money down deals, and that's something that gets a lot of press out there. It doesn't mean the owner doesn't get any money. That's the thing to make clear. Like, a no money down deal can mean loads of different variations of that, but is that, you've mentioned leverage a few times, but you're leveraging, like, for example, the RLS scheme in the past.
Exactly.
They're still getting money up front, the owner.
Yeah, I think the whole no money down deal is it's got a whole stigma around it now with so many different people in so many different sectors, and it's usually people
selling a course
with these buzzwords, no money down, and ultimately it's true to a sense, right? I always say you can do it and there'll be no money of your own down. But there's always money involved in a transaction, unless you just done a fully deferred deal. And deferred means, you say we were to buy a business at 1 million, you would say, okay, I'll pay you $1 million, but it'll come from the proceeds of the company, and I'll pay you over 10 years, and you pay them $100,000 a year. That's how you would buy the business.
And the main reason for that is primarily because the businesses are it's very risky.
And it might not be performing to where you think it is for you to put any money in, or for someone else to put money in. And we've got some investors, so ultimately we are no money down, but every acquisition, every good acquisition we've done, thankfully we've had a few investors on there who've maybe put in 10% of the acquisition price, and that's allowed us to put our portion of the upfront payment in where they want a bit of skin in the game. So the way that we've instructed them is kind of an element of upfront payment, whether that come from maybe a debtor book, we'll raise that through invoice financing, or maybe you're looking at the investor pool that you have, will they put something into it for shares in return, which we've done?
Even some of the businesses we know that have been buying bigger deals, they have over leveraged as well in the last few years, and they've all went under. And without naming them, there's a group that's had 7 or 8 go bust in the last 9 months because they've over leveraged.
So we've changed our approach in the last year.
Yeah, just with the nurseries we've seen it, because and again, none of that stuff was personally guaranteed, and we've had that conversation. Imagine we had PGs against all that stuff. It wouldn't have been nice. Mm-hmm. So as Declan was saying, we have changed the approach. I mean, probably the only no money down deal we would probably do now is maybe a bit of invoice financing, but mostly we would look at it as wholly deferred deals. And as you were touching on earlier, sellers need to open their eyes and realise that sometimes that's probably the only way to sell the business, because most of the people we speak to, when you take the owner out, there's no business.
Yep.
Yeah,
and they're expecting you to plough in 200-300k and then you're left with all the risk.
Yep.
I think there's probably a gap in the market for someone to actually go in and teach business owners of SMEs, you know, that there's not many buyers, and how they could prepare themselves for a sale in the future by putting things in place and replacing themselves and things like that. So there's probably a gap somewhere there for someone to teach that, and I'm sure somebody does teach it.
It's funny you mention that. I've done a webinar exactly about this.
Right,
he's your man for it.
All right,
I was young. No, you're bang on, guys. There's definitely a market there. It's an education piece, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But again, like even the people starting businesses, they don't know anything about business when they start up either, so they're kind of learning as they go as well. So we're tidying up now, guys. In terms of what you're looking for going forward, you've mentioned a couple of wee nuggets there, but what kind of businesses are you looking for in the future?
Well, we're definitely looking at the childcare sector, of course, for obvious reasons. We own in it, we know how well it works, we like the staff model, we've got Fiona on board, so it just makes sense for us to continue to do that.
But we're pretty, when we're looking, I wouldn't say we're sector agnostic, but like we're talking to just now waste management companies, engineering companies, removal
anything
companies.
That provides a service that we feel is essential to the economy, I think it's important.
Yeah.
So if you look at waste management, it's ever growing, it's needed, it's going to be probably growing in the next 10 years to new levels. Engineering, again, it's something that's always happened since whenever.
So like traditional type businesses.
Traditional type businesses, non-complex businesses, and that's probably we've realised that from the childcare sector. It's so complex. And
a lot of regulations and stuff.
A lot of regulations with the care inspectorate.
There's a ceiling on the growth with the amount of numbers you can get kids into certain nurseries.
So simple businesses really, and again that comes from watching people who are successful. You know, they all own simple businesses and they've kind of grew them and maybe done acquisition bolt-ons and things. So yeah, simple businesses, but we are pretty much sector agnostic as long as we feel there's a place for that business in the economy in the future, no matter the economic cycle we're in. You know, we will look at it. But probably not under $1 million turnover.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a kind of profit target, or is that not too much of a...
Yeah, but we're going to look at anything under 250 profit.
Gives you a bit of...
Yeah, I think at 250 and above, you kind of get to the point where it's not one client, and that's again something we'd look into is what is our client list, how much of their percentage of their turnover is tied to one client, and then if it's like over kind of 30%, we just probably wouldn't look at the business. It's probably too reliant on one person. So again, with that profit, we feel if you're kind of doing over 250, we feel that if you still dropped 50% of your turnover in profit, you're still at 125 grand, and we won't over leverage your business.
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention.
50%.
That is where the kind of deal structure would come in with them, where we wouldn't. It'd be a case of here's a deal structure, we could do this on a deferred basis for one. You're not going to pay crazy multiples for a business.
So just to break that down, maybe people who don't know what maybe that we're speaking about, it means if a business is doing 250 grand profit and we were going to leverage a deal, we would make sure that everything we had to pay out of that business or of its profits weren't more than 50%. So therefore we know if the business drops 50% of its profits, we can still cover its debt regardless, and that's what's most important to us. It's not making a lot of money out of the businesses, because that will happen in time. It's making sure that you
fulfilling the deal you've agreed.
Fulfilling the deal that you've agreed, and we've learned that from the mistakes we've made in the future. So it's really having, and again that's a part of our criteria that we have now, so that's important to us. But yeah, any sector, as long as we feel it,
you can add value.
You can add value, and then it's doing $1 million turnover as well.
Amazing. Well, guys, we've covered a lot of ground, a lot of good insights for the audience. Young guys, I'm really excited to see what he's doing in the future. Maybe something we can all do in the future and all benefit, because you guys have got a team, we've got a team. Maybe there's some kind of super group in there, who knows.
Yeah, I reckon so.
But guys, it's been a pleasure to have you on. Before I tail off there, where should people go to if they want to get in touch with you?
So social media,
LinkedIn,
yeah, is our only social media platform, to be fair. I'm not
I know we're not too pushy on social media, to be totally honest with you, because most of our stuff comes through marketing. So yeah, but LinkedIn's probably the best place to find me anyway.
Yeah, Declan Gilmore on LinkedIn, Kieran McKay on LinkedIn. But yeah, we're not got a crazy social media presence, to be fair. It's probably more strategic at this point where we are.
Probably costing us to some extent, but
yeah, it probably is.
Yeah, it's also very difficult to keep up the consistency of posting 2-3 times a day. I know that from experience.
Yeah, I just don't want to get caught up. What we're doing, I don't feel as if people need to know.
Yeah,
that's the truth. I don't feel as if I have to be putting my life out there to people, and Kieran feels the same, Ryan feels the same. So it's just a strategic,
it's a personal choice.
It's strategic and personal from our standpoint. So just LinkedIn, to be fair. Yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Well, guys, thanks very much for coming on. It's been a pleasure, and really excited to see what you guys do in the future. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Thanks, guys.
For having us.
Cheers, mate.